We watch these numbers every week. We go over them every week in our meeting, and I'm not seeing an uptick of active properties.
How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Shawn and Matt Show. My name is Matt, that is Shawn, and welcome to our show. Shawn, in today's episode, we're going to get a little update on the spring market. Lots of things are happening, or depending on where you're looking, maybe you're not seeing a lot of things happening, and why that may be the case, and when you may see more things happening. When I say things happening, I mean houses coming on the market.
Sure, yeah.
But speaking of houses not coming on the market, Shawn, in Ocean City, a house just closed, so congratulations on your purchase. You had just gone up. By the way, happy birthday.
Thank you.
Lots of fun things happening in your life. So congrats to you. So you stopped by the house. You closed on it last week.
Yep.
How'd things look? What are the next steps?
Oh man,
how
it's
do you
so
feel?
funny. Yeah, it's just like anybody, slightly overwhelmed, right? When you close on a property, and it takes me 2 hours and 45 minutes to get there. Just so you know, I closed on Friday. I'm purchasing this with my sister and brother-in-law, and we closed on Friday, and my nephews were there right when we were closing. Like, they were waiting to get in that door. And so they got there, and then my brother-in-law and my sister went down to the property that Friday night, and they stayed the weekend. And so they were sitting there and, you know, having a great time and enjoying the property and calling me all the time and rubbing it in and whatever. And so they were... They walked out to the driveway, and all of a sudden there was this water coming from this thing, like, right, and in the yard. And the cool thing is the listing agent lives right next to us. So the listing agent that I was dealing with the whole time lives right next door, which is great. So I call her and I'm like, hey, there's a thing in the yard that says septic, and it's leaking into the driveway. So this is the kind of stuff that happens in reality when you purchase properties. You just don't know what the reality is when you move into the property. But I'm like, septic? What septic are you talking about? This is public water, public sewer, right? Like, why is there a septic system? Well, I learned a little bit more. There is no septic system, but this particular thing is part of the public sewage system. And luckily, it's not anything I have to deal with. So I called the listing agent, and she's like, I'll take care of it. She calls the county. County comes out. There was a broken pump. They fix the pump. And
they like dig up your front yard or something?
No. Every house in our little thing has one of these in the yard. You wouldn't know it was there. It's like this little circle thing, like a, you know.
Is there like an easement or something like that?
No easement. I guess there is. I mean, honestly, plat. There probably is an easement for that particular thing.
Did you get a survey done?
I didn't get a survey.
No survey. Not a survey guy.
No. That's odd. You know what?
Why didn't you get a survey? You didn't get a survey for a single family house?
Listen to me. Well, it's Maryland. It was a little bit different, but I have to. Did we sign off on a survey? That's a good question. See, that stuff comes up all the time, and you're like, wait a second, it's waterfront property, and you didn't have a survey.
Do you own
But
any?
I looked at the plat.
Do you own any of the water? Like, does it go out?
It goes out into the water.
Does it really?
The actual lot lines go into the water.
You know, if you just like, can you just build a fence around?
Well, the problem is there's HOA rules, right? So the HOA says what you can and can't do. Anyways, my point here is that, you know, we moved into the property and we're like, things always go wrong. So no matter how good the property is, how much research you've done, how many home inspections you've done, there always are going to be problems after you move in, because sometimes the properties sit vacant. You haven't used those pipes in a long time. There hasn't been, you know, the pump hasn't been used in a long time. So once you go in and people are starting to use the plumbing and everything, stuff happens. So anyways, we got it resolved. The county came out. They did all the work on it, and it didn't cost us a dime. So that was good. Then I went down Tuesday, and I came back Wednesday. So I was only there for 24 hours. I took my kids, took my wife. We all stayed in the property again. And, you know, it's funny. It's different when you get there and it's yours now, and you're looking around and you look in more detail and you're like, all right, the $20,000 I thought I was going to drop into this is now looking a little bit more. You know, you
a lot more than 20.
Oh yeah, because it was originally going to be floors and paint. That's what, and new appliances. And we thought, all right, it's probably low 20s is what we're looking at. And then you start using the bathrooms, and we knew we were going to replace all the toilets. That was number one. And, but then you look at the showers and you're like, yeah, they don't look that good. They're kind of cramped. You take a shower in there, you're like, yeah, it's pretty tight. So the next thing we'll probably do is take out the molded showers. You know how they're all those molded with a seat in it, and it just takes up too much space. So we're probably going to pull those out and tile and make them a little more roomy. So now that 22 is now going up to 32, 40, so.
How much DIY work, like how much of this are you like, all right, I'm just going to go to Home Depot and like buy the shower head and like do all this other stuff versus like, all right, I'm going to get my guy out there, write a check, and he'll take care of it.
Yeah. You think you're going to do it DIY.
What level hands-on are we talking?
I'm doing none.
None.
I'm basically doing nothing because it's too far for me to travel. And another thing is I went and I got new locks. I got a new code lock. I got a camera. And I got a new Ring doorbell or whatever doorbell.
Smart.
And I was going to install that stuff. And you know what happens when you try to do it? I put the doorbell in. There's a light at the doorbell, right? I connect all the wires, do everything perfectly, and the thing's blinking.
Error.
Low. It's blinking saying that it has low power.
Low power.
So meaning I have to go back and get a new power source thing for so it never ends, right? So I got frustrated. I'm like, forget it. I took it off, took it back. That's the level of things, the frustration that occurs when you go down there. You have limited time to get this stuff done. You're like, you know what? I'm just going to leave the lock for somebody else to do. Whenever the contract gets here, he can install that. I'm not going to touch it because the last thing I want to do is try to replace that lock. And then I'm stuck there and I'm like, I can't lock the door now, right?
Have you ever watched a locksmith work? Like, dude, the thing that you're struggling on for hours, they just like hammer away at things and pound at things, and then in 5 minutes, it's perfect.
Yep.
It's infuriating, but you're like, all right, well, that's why they're professional, and I'll pay you $150 plus the 15 minutes of labor.
You're so right. I mean, it's so worth the money because you know how if you ever like build furniture from IKEA or somewhere, they send it to you and you're like building it. That first one takes you like 2 hours. The second one takes you an hour and 15 minutes. The next one, so let somebody else do it. Don't spend your 3-4 hours trying to do one small task. So your answer to your question, I'm pretty much doing nothing. I'm going to let him do it.
All right. Certainly interesting. I mean, we could get into, the nooks and crannies of your purchase, all day long. But let's move on, Shawn. Article from Urban Turf. DC area home prices nearly break record in March. And so we're in, early to mid-April. And so we're looking back on the month that was. Coming from Bright MLS, the median home price in the region of March rose to $599,500, a 10% increase compared to last March. The price point is just $5,000 shy of the record set in May 2023, May of last year. Home prices saw some of the biggest gains in Fairfax, Montgomery, and Arlington County. So new listings, despite dropping 11% year over year, outpaced pending sales in March. So inventory did tick up. Shawn, I'm, obviously working with a handful of buyer clients. The most recent anecdote I can share is Falls Church, right? Price point of $979. So solid price point.
And what is this
solid
for?
Property. This is for a 2-level townhouse. And there are going to be multiple offers. And so I looked up. I was like, all right, we've written on so many. So I looked up statistically how much over the asking price are all these going. And some are 4%, some are 5%, some are 14%, some are 12%, some are 10%. And so it looked to be around like at least 8%. At least 8% over the asking price. Now,
you're talking like $75K.
Yes, at least $75K. Now, we wrote a solid offer. My people, they liked the house. They didn't love it. And so they wrote an offer equal to how much they liked it. Someone liked it more. Even if we had gone 8%, which I thought would have been like almost maybe a winning offer, we would have been beaten by another like $50,000.
Wow.
So, what I'm seeing in the market, and I text you Arlington properties all the time, like, hey, this one just went for 200 over. Hey, this one went for 250 over. So, that's essentially what I'm seeing. I didn't really have an end to the story of like, but there's good news at the end of this.
There's no good news, dude.
And everyone keeps talking about rate cuts. I'm kind of tired of talking about, hey, will there be rate cuts or will there won't be rate cuts? Because there probably will be. But we don't know when. We don't know how. We don't know. Well, we know who's going to do it. But what are you seeing in the market? Are you also? Do you have any stories from the trenches of maybe buyers bidding on properties or anything like that?
Yeah, funny. I have more listings than buyers right now, which is good because I like being not competing and just letting people compete for my listings. Funny enough, one of the big ones I have under contract right now was overpriced. And that's where you're going to find, like, look for these overpriced properties. If you can find, they're out there. There are definitely, look for the ones that are lasting 2 weeks and then come in and lowball them or get the valuation.
So how did it happen? This is for a buyer client.
This is for a buyer client.
Okay.
All right. This property was listed for $1.95 million. It's a 5-level townhouse in Ballston. It's an elevator townhouse. It's awesome. It's got a rooftop and it was overpriced. And we ended up securing that after 2 weeks on the market for $100,000 less than asking. So 1.85. VA buyer, again, VA buyers are hard to get in. VA buyer, and it appraised. We're good. We're moving forward. And so what I would say is if you have that buyer fatigue, which we're starting to see, and I've talked to agents all the time, they're like, yeah, we're starting to see my buyers are just starting to, get sidetracked and be like, forget it. We're going to hold off for a little bit. So you're going to start seeing that. But there is opportunity out there. If you can find the overpriced properties, go for those. The ones that last over a week, there's something up. And what is it? It's usually the price. So that's number one. To give you an idea of what I'm seeing right now as far as a listing, I just put one on this morning. This is probably the lowest priced single family home in Arlington right now. It is. It's a small 2-bedroom, 2-bath home, single family home in Westover. It's really well done. It's priced at $875,000, which it's really hard to find anything around a $900,000 price point. The last one that sold was a little bit bigger. I'd say mine's a little bit better. That sold for $850,000. This one's decked out. It's got a little Airbnb in the backyard. It's an income producing property at the same time. I put it on coming soon on Saturday or Sunday, I believe, Sunday. And I had 12 showings already scheduled. And then it went active this morning and I've had a few more scheduled. So I expect that one to get a lot of action, strategically priced. But it's tough because you don't want to overprice in this market. Like I mentioned, because then you create opportunity for buyers to say, well, I'm going to lowball you and you don't get the price that you thought you would have gotten. Or you can price it slightly under market and hopefully that market takes it and you get what the market will give you.
Do you think the market is currently frozen right now? We have people waiting on the sidelines. We have, people maybe with the golden handcuffs of lots of equity. And then we have these houses that are coming on the market where the sellers want all this money for it. And, maybe it's fine. Maybe it's okay. Maybe it hasn't been touched in like 25 years. And the monthly payments are so much different because of the interest rates. Are we currently in a frozen market?
Yeah, the funny thing is, we are starting to see a little more inventory, but we watch these numbers every week. We go over them every week in our meeting, and I'm not seeing an uptick of active properties. I mean, maybe because they're going under contract quicker, but when I look at the under contracts, there's not a ton more. So typically at this season, we would see a big ramp up of inventory, and we're kind of, not as much as Arlington used to get. So I think maybe it is frozen. I mean, the ones that are coming on the market are leaving, but there's a lot of people on the sidelines that are just like, what do I do? Should I go after this property? Should I wait for more inventory? Is this the perfect property? Like your clients just said, this one isn't the greatest. I'll write an offer. And isn't it crazy that we even get to that point where it's like, I'll see if I can get it.
Yeah.
I'll write on it because it's the only one out there. And that's kind of strange. So the frozen market, what do you think? I mean, what are your buyer clients seeing and are they feeling frozen? Are you seeing that they're like freezing in their steps and just saying, you know what, I'm going to hold off? Is it buyer fatigue?
Yeah, I think we touched on it a couple weeks ago where, is summer the new spring market? Because, for the longest time it was April. April is the time to list your house. And now I think the statistics will tell you that the inventory is up, but the inventory is up from what? Like instead of 5 houses, there's 7 houses.
Yeah,
like
not much.
It's not up by a lot, and so we'll start to see these stretched out spring markets that will bleed into, the summer months and into maybe the school calendar ending. And so I think we're definitely seeing a partial freeze, maybe like the lake's not quite frozen over, but you can walk out a couple steps, but your mom might yell at you for doing so. That level of freeze. But I would be, not to sound too cliche, I'd be cautiously optimistic about like the June timeframe.
Cautiously. So you think that more is going to come on in June?
I do.
Okay.
I do.
That's good. I hope you're right, because we aren't seeing the activity or the inventory. And there's a lot of people just out there trying to find anything. The fact that I had 11 showings scheduled in 3 days on a coming soon property that wasn't even like to the masses yet shows you something.
Yeah, that's huge.
And it's a really well priced single family home in Arlington, which is really tough to find. It's like that unicorn, right? It's a 1,200 square feet total square footage, but then you have this income producing property in the back, which is really tough to price, know? And so it's like, all right, well, let's go where you're comfortable and let the market take it.
Yeah. Speaking of inventory, is there not a lot of inventory and whatnot? Article from the Washington Post just came out. The DC region needs to build 87 new homes per day, and it's not close. A Post analysis finds most area jurisdictions aren't on track to meet housing targets set by lawmakers. So, Shawn, essentially what this is a revisit from a 2019 study that essentially said that the area needed to build 320,000 housing units in the next decade to keep up with the region's growth. Now, checking in on that halfway through the decade, the region's falling behind. And it's falling behind specifically, ironically enough, Arlington County, Alexandria, Falls Church City, DC seem to be hitting their targets. Fairfax County, the most populous county in the region, not hitting its target, down only 36% of the 2030 goal. So kind of just not so bright of a check-in. Obviously, something had happened since 2019, and it's easy to point the finger at 2020 and say, hey, listen, pandemic, hey, inflation, hey, no one wants to work. But is there something more that can be done? Because I was in Reston last week, and I went to this little taco shop, Taco Zoccola. Just, little hole in the wall place, delicious. I think they have a Arlington location as well, but it's in like the most depressing like business park. You know how like Reston has business parks?
Yes.
It's like, oh my gosh, like what in the 1980s is this? And don't you have a client that was looking to buy one of those janky condo like townhouse businesses where the sales price is like $50,000 and the condo fee is like $4,000 a month?
Yep.
Can we just tear down all of the Reston business parks and put up some apartments, put up some townhouses, put up some single family houses? Like that would be the goal. It's articles like this, and then it's the Northern Virginia NIMBYs that are like, we need more houses, but let's do it in the next county over. So what are your thoughts when you see a recap of a study like this that's halfway done?
Yeah, the surprising thing is that inside the Beltway, close into DC, they're actually hitting their numbers. Why is that? Alexandria is 130%. They've done, where are they putting all of these? And Arlington, does it say what percentage Arlington
is at 122% of its estimated 2030 target.
So that I can see, because we see, and these aren't necessarily for sale, correct? These are rental units.
No, a lot of them are rental units.
So if you go down the RB corridor right now in Arlington, you'll see buildings going up like crazy, and they're mostly apartments. So they're not going to help the alleviation of the problem of.
So why is that? So I have an answer. But why are the cranes, the new builds, apartments and not condos or something else?
Because like everything else in the United States, it's very expensive to live here, and rents are astronomical. And our area demands a high rent. And if the demand is here, the jobs are moving here, Amazon's moved here, this area is a very great place to live. And more people want to live here. And they know, the corporations that are building these things know that they can charge $3,000, $3,500 for a 1-bedroom. And then the next year after you're in, they're going to increase it. And so they know the money is in the rental. The money is in the future when they go to sell the property in years. If they ever do, the property's just going to increase.
Yeah, I have a shorter answer. Follow the money.
Exactly.
Developer builds the property, leases up the property to 75%. 2 years later, they sell it to the next developer. They're not waiting years. They're building their project, they're leasing it up, and then they're getting their money back plus maybe a couple more $100 million, and then they're going on to the next hole, the next hole in the ground.
Yeah. Otherwise, they're gonna if they're doing.
I mean, there's a condo building in Arlington. I got an email today, 3 units remaining. 3 units. That was like 4 years ago. I mean, you are selling a condo in the middle of a pandemic. I don't envy the sales staff that had to do that, but it just goes to show you, like, oh, the condos are so expensive. Yeah, they're going to take 4 years to sell.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's going to happen.
Not only that, but the building you're talking about, I'm assuming is the Pierce, right? Is that
correct?
Yeah, the Pierce. It's like you can't find anything under $1 million. There's 1, 2, maybe under $1 million.
I'm going to one today.
Are you?
Yeah.
Is it 9? Is that the one that was just
It's the one
for 9?
that's 999.
Yeah.
It's under $1 million.
If you want to live in the Pierce, this is your one opportunity to get it under $1 million.
I think it's a great deal because I looked on the tax records and the guy bought it, I think in 21 for $985.
Yeah.
And so now it's at $999, so just under $1 million. That's
a good
for
deal.
A 2-bedroom in, would you say it's the best building? I mean, every new building is like the best building, but I mean,
depends on who's buying. Yeah,
it's the newest.
It's one of the nicest buildings in Arlington, and it demands one of the highest price per square foot in the area. So yeah, it's one of the nicest buildings for $999.9. It seems like a good deal. If he just bought it in 2021. It only increased in $15,000. Now, could you get it at $985? Maybe, maybe it wasn't a great investment, because that's what we always say is like, don't try to buy and sell in the next 3 years, which he did, or 2.5 years. You're probably not going to see a big return, and most of that equity is going to be gobbled up in fees. So does it make sense to buy, especially in a brand new condo like that? You're always going to see, you're paying a premium for new. You're paying a premium from the builder because it's brand new. And then things start getting used. Now, if you don't see that increase in value, then you're going to see a decrease in value because it starts getting older. And the condo fees, this is one thing. When I used to sell new condos, you'd see the builder budget for condo fees and say, all right, well, they're going to be $300 a month, right? So everybody's like buying these things up and they're like, all right, $300 a month. And then the builder's finally done and they send it off to the homeowners to manage, and they're like, whoa, we're totally under budget. We're going to have to increase these condo fees by like $200, right? So we've seen that happen in a lot of these buildings. I don't know how the Pierce is doing. Pierce still has the developers trying to sell units, and now there's competing units. Mm-hmm. So that's the problem. But
yeah, like I said, I don't envy that real estate agent who's still trying to do that.
That's hard.
And
man.
Shawn, speaking of real estate agents, there's an article, a post from Lab Coat Agents titled, "Is the Golden Age of Real Estate Over? Why this one broker is getting out of the industry after 20 years." And just to kind of recap it, they're exiting the business. They're they're almost 50 years old, not 50 years old. They got into the business in 2004.
This is like me.
Did you post as anonymous member?
I am anonymous member. I posted it 3 hours ago.
No, you did not.
I didn't.
So they said they got into the business in 2024, and they feel like the past 20 years were likely some of the best years for real estate agents. And then what made it so great? They break it down. Technology has changed, drastically with DocuSign, the online MLS, GPS, navigation. Brokers back in 2004, maybe Shawn could speak more about this, but they would take a lot of your commissions and, were the big bosses and had a lot of influence, and that has changed. Everything that happened with the housing market in, 2008 to 2010. Client expectations, you meet someone at an open house and then you show them a different house an hour later down the street, and then you sell them, that house. 20 years ago, there wasn't a real estate agent around every corner, in every family circle, every group. Now the market is saturated with agents, many of them making client expectations unreasonable. So, Shawn, it's got me thinking, is this person kind of onto something, or are they simply just recounting their experience on their way out?
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. I don't think they're right in the effect that it used to be, the big box brokerage model ruled, and you were paying a lot into that system. And thankfully that has changed. They're right in the fact that it has gotten easier through DocuSign. I used to have to go with a piece of paper and say, Matt, initial this. In the middle, like in the evening, I'd be running to get one initial, and then I'd have to scan it and fax it. It was crazy. So that's made our life easier. But at the same time, back then, there was no Zillow. There was no huge websites. It was easier to get a lead on your own than it is now. So now you're paying for leads. A lot of times these agents, the bigger agents out there, they're probably paying for leads to get as big as they are. In some way, they're getting a lead source like that. So I agree with them in a lot of respects that the business, we've had a great 20 years. And, it was hard at the beginning, just like anything when I joined. It's tough. It's a tough business to get into because there's a huge learning curve that people don't understand. But as you learn, it gets easier, just like anything else. Like we were saying, am I going to go and do all this work on my house? No, I'm going to hire a professional that can do it in 2 minutes. That's like us. Like we have been doing this for 10 and 20 years, and we have it down to a science. We can do it really quickly. We know the market. We study this stuff all the time. So I think this is his or hers exit strategy. This is the way to make his mind say, I'm ready to get out.
To feel good about it.
He's making himself feel good about the exit and saying, you know what, this is my time. I'm seeing big changes in real estate right now. There's a big unknown about real estate commissions, real estate buyer agent commissions. I've talked to many people over the last week about that situation. Clients that I have signed up right now that are going to sell their property in May, I've had them signed up for months, and they're like, hey, Shawn, do you think we do anything different based on the buyer agency commission? Like, I'm reading this stuff and people are talking about it. And like, personally, I wouldn't change anything. I would say run the course as is, because if you think about it, it's a who knows. And so that's what this agent is going through, is like, who knows what's going to happen in the next 6 months.
Yeah, certainly this on the heels of, the NAR lawsuit, commissions and whatnot. And, he mentions, he or she mentions burnout a couple times. But the thing that gets me is the golden age. And so I'm thinking like selfishly, okay, well, what's my golden age? And when I think about golden age, I automatically just refer to like sports. And so March Madness just finished up. And to me, the golden age of March Madness was from like 1999 to like 2010 or 2012. Yeah. Like starting with like the Mateen Cleaves, like 2000 Michigan State team, all the way up to like the George Mason 2006 run. Like that was March Madness. I didn't watch a single second of March Madness. I was watching more of the women's, finals than I was the men's. And then with like the NHL, I'm thinking, okay, from like 2002 to 2018, obviously, boom, golden age. NBA, like 1990s, early 2000, like the 2003 NBA All-Star Game, amazing. I could do the same thing with the NFL, but it got me thinking, the golden age for sports was just when I was watching it.
That's right.
That was the best time because I was in the story. I was in the picture. I was sitting on the couch watching TV. And so maybe this, guy or gal is just saying, yeah, it was the golden age because I was doing it.
Yeah.
And that's all. And so all it is to it.
That's right. That's exactly it. I was thinking the golden age for me, the late 90s for hockey. That was when I was watching it. That's when Mario Lemieux was kicking it, right? And so that was the golden age. That's when I look back. But everybody's golden age is different. And this person they've experienced maybe a really good time in real estate, and maybe they're going through a downside. Maybe they're tired. This business is very tiring. And if you've been doing it 20 years like I have, it's tiring. It's, my wife sees me every day. It's a struggle. It's a hustle. You got to go when people want you to go. And maybe it's this person saying, you know what, I'm tired of this. The golden age is behind me. There's too much change for me. I'm out. And you know what? Then it's agents like you and the newer agents that are going to take over and say, hey, now's my time. Now's my golden age, right? All right, we're going to take this bull by the horns and say there's a new buyer agency commission standard, or there's a new way of doing business, and you're going to wrangle it. by the horns and say, I'm going. And I think you brought up a point about a buyer agent being paid.
Yes. Let's jump into that. On the heels of the way commissions are changing, there was a post from Reddit that was entitled, "Didn't close, and my realtor charged me for quote unquote services provided on showing 5 houses." Essentially, this person took a look at a couple houses, put in an offer, backed out. It was just too much money, got an inspection, got a contractor through and all that. The day after we told the realtor we were going to stop looking, they not only, didn't want the house, but they stopped their search. We got an invoice for 5 houses, and he showed us for $600. I was prepared to give him a gift card as a thank you for taking the time and spending the gas to show us the houses. But now he's getting nothing, and he lost a future customer. Has anyone experienced anything that's happened to them?
This is funny, man. This is the way things are going to start happening. The downside, or maybe the problem with the real estate agent, is that he's got to have this contract in writing. There's no enforceability if he doesn't have a buyer broker agreement. You can charge all you want and say, hey, you owe me this much money. But if you don't have a buyer broker agreement, you're not getting anything.
Yeah, first of all, egregious move on the realtor's part, because it was never talked about. The expectations, right? The expectations up front weren't, hey, I'm going to charge you this money if you quit your search or per house. It was almost like, oh, shoot, I'm out of this time. Maybe I'll just see if they'll accept this. Terrible move. But this could be the future. This could be more expectations of, hey, the people that work with me, the people that work with Shawn are people that buy houses. They are not people that, oh, maybe we'll just look at this one because, we're in the neighborhood. It's not in our price range or meet any of our criteria, but since we're here and you're here, it'd probably just be easy to check it out. So that may be the future. I don't, like Shawn said, no one knows how this is all going to shake out with a per house, with a maybe, $500 per written offer type of situation, $100 per, home inspection. But I had to check this username to make sure that this was an actual question and not like a kind of like a troll question, goading people into the potential future. And it looked like it happened in Miami, so it actually did happen. But I would not be surprised if there are retainer fees, there are hourly fees, there are all sorts of different ways that realtors are going to be trying to put food on the table as they figure out the commission breakdowns.
Yep. You know what the funny thing is? Everybody's after the big dollar, right? They're after this commission. They see how much real estate agents can make in a transaction. And what they don't realize is there's a lot of work. We've talked about this many times, but we are running around not getting paid until we close, right? I have a listing coming on in the next 2-3 weeks. I've been working on that thing for 4 months. 4 months. I have not gotten a paycheck. First it was getting the listing agreement signed. Then it's like talking to contractors, getting them in there. Like, it's a ton of work prior to even listing this property. And so that's what people don't understand. And now, these whole lawsuits that people were saying, oh, I didn't know I was paying a buyer agency commission, or, VAR, NAR getting sued, and all these lawsuits that are going on are changing the business. So what's going to happen? Now buyers are going to find out that if you want services, you're either going to pay them at closing, or there's going to be a hybrid like this where I'm going to charge you $125 per house and $500 per offer. And you might find yourself spending a lot more, but what does that do for real estate agents? It's a stream of income. Hey, take as long as you want. I'll show you as many houses as you want, but you're going to pay for it. Right now, we show as many houses as you want within reason. We write so many offers. We don't get paid. We don't get paid. We don't get paid until you write the best offer that you can ever write in your life, and you finally win the house. Then we get paid. And not only that, how many times have you taken around people and they're just like this? Hey, thanks a lot. We appreciate it. We're going to stop our search right now. We'll contact you in a year, 2 years, maybe never, right? Happens all the time. So there are so many times when we are busting our butt and we don't get paid.
You know how some people say that like realtors don't have the best interest because they want their buyer to, pay the most because then they get more and it's like $50 more.
Yeah.
Do you think now people are going to say, oh, the realtor just wants to show you houses that don't meet your criteria to make like $100 more?
They'll spin it. Yeah, I'll show you whatever house oh yeah, you want that one for $6 million? Yeah, let's go see it and pay me X amount of dollars per showing. We run around a lot. And Matt, you're really good.
Isn't that just sales though? Like
it's sales.
Sales, like a car salesman, they're not charging per test drive. They're not charging per phone call. Like they don't get paid until someone buys the car. Correct. Software sales, they're not paid per like cold call they make. They're there like 9 to 5, in the boiler room, just hammering out the calls. Maybe they get like a measly salary, but it's a lot of time invested in the call, in the demo, in the follow up.
Exactly, and
we're just complaining. That's what we're doing.
Well, that's what people don't understand is like, everybody's now coming after the commission. There's like, oh, you guys make, whatever, right? But think about all of the salespeople that go through this. I mean, and what I was thinking about this morning, we moved brokerages a year and a half ago, right? We went from Century 21 to Real Broker. And one of the things that about sales and about real estate is the pressure cooker, right? The pressure cooker. Hey, you're number one. Are you going to be number one? You better be number one. You better sell more houses. You better sell more product. Go, go, go. Push, push, push. My buddy that I grew up with at home, he's in a sales job, different type of sales job. But what they do is they say, oh, you sold, $6 million of product last year. Now you have to sell $6.6 million. That's your 100%. Next year, oh, you did really well. They push it up. They push you until you break. And then when you break, they fire you. They get rid of you, right? So it's always, sales is a pressure cooker. And I always felt, and not that they really pushed this on us, but they kind of did. They're always like, push the number 1, 2, 3 people. They would always give them recognition, which was great. But at the same time, why were they doing that? To keep the sales up, to keep them going, to keep everybody else looking at you like, hey, what's he going to sell this year? How much are you going to sell this year? So there was pressure. Maybe it was pressure that I put on myself, and it probably was because I put a lot of pressure on myself. But when I moved over to Real Broker, I'm like, pressure's gone. Like I'm just going to be myself, and I'm just going to sell what I sell, and I'm still going to do well, but I'm not going to put that pressure on myself. And maybe it was self-induced or whatever, but sorry, there's my long-winded answer to whatever you asked.
You don't like the leaderboard? I kind of like the leaderboard. I kind of like
the leaderboard.
Seeing my name up there.
I do. I mean, it's nice to see it, but at the same time, year after year, you watch what Matt Leighton's doing. And you're like, I got to keep up with Matt Leighton. I got to keep up with Matt Leighton, and it causes this pressure. Maybe it's a drive.
That's the game, homie.
It's the game, right? But that's what people don't understand. It's a game. It's a pressure, and don't come after my money.
I think people in sales will understand the pressure
Absolutely,
cooker.
they will. Yeah.
All right. Well, let us move on, Shawn, to in or out. Does this house look familiar? Let's go. So I finally took a look at it, and I was like, okay, this is a sick house.
Yes.
So, Shawn, you know what? Why don't you introduce the people to 5861 15th Road North in Arlington, a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, listed for $875, 1,250 square feet, single family house in Westover. Shawn, what do you got?
Matt, this is the more I look at it, the more I love this house. Okay. So they originally bought it in 2018, and they put $130,000 into this property. And, it needed work at that time. And our agent, Patricia, actually sold them this house. Patricia is in Germany right now. And so I took over this for her, and we put it on the market, and, they have done everything, everything new in here. There is a new roof, 2022. There's, look at the pictures. It's all been done. And in 2021 was the major rehab. But the other great thing about this, and this is like the unicorn, all right? This is a 2-bedroom, 2-bath. It's a smaller house. It's what an agent called me and said today, Shawn, I just got out of your listing. I just got out of the cutest house I've ever seen.
No way.
The cutest house I've ever seen. And she was gushing over it to her clients. She's like, her clients were out of town, and she's like, oh my gosh, you got to come and see this property. So they're going to come over the weekend. The major things about it, it's a smaller home. It's 1,225 square feet on 3 levels. So you're talking 400 square feet per level. So it's tighter. It's not going to be for everybody, but man, is it cute. It's livable as hell. It's got an income producing property in the backyard.
That's the game changer.
How can you find that?
That's
right?
crazy.
It's an efficiency inside the backyard. It's like maybe an old garage. I don't know when it was that this particular part was built, because when you look at the plat, the old plat that I have, it's not part of the plat. It's not written on there. There's a little shed in the back. They replaced the whole fence going around the property. The roof is new. The HVAC is newer. So this income producing property in the back, this is an ADU. This is what people look for. They want to supplement their buying power. If I can, if I'm looking at a $600,000 condo and I see an $875,000 house, I don't have to pay condo fees, and I can have a producing property. They said that they made $21,000 in 2023, and that's just renting it out like to neighbors' friends, to neighbors,
They probably weren't even trying.
They weren't really trying. They're like, we let our family stay here first, and then we rent it out.
Speaking of family, I also see an aging in place opportunity of generational living. Now, you're not going to have the whole family here in 1,250 square feet. You can certainly have the grandparents, in the ADU.
Yeah, and that's the key. It's so livable. It's such a good multi-generational kind of thing. There's no kitchen in the ADU, but there is
there's like a little, I don't know if it's, I don't think it's a kitchenette, but it's a microwave,
you can survive.
Coffee station.
Yeah.
Situation
you can survive in there. So it's a great opportunity. They would rent it out over weekends, and there was just somebody staying there the other day, and they just clean it up and go for it. So $875,000. It's a steal.
I almost hit up Elaine. I almost texted Elaine, and I was like, "Listen, I know we're a couple years out, but this is. I love the front picture. This front picture at dusk with the American flag. Oh my goodness,
it's beautiful, right?
Where to go? Look at that.
That's why preparation, good photographers, and at the right time. Our photographers are really good. They did it at dusk. It's a little brighter than I wanted it to, but it's such a good shot. Right?
That's fine.
Yeah,
it's great.
Yep.
What's listed at $875? What's this going to go for?
I don't know. And this is the tough thing when you're valuing a property. I'm looking at algorithms. And I'll be honest, all the algorithms were lower than 875. They were all lower. But
are you pushing this? Is this being pushed?
I don't think so. I mean, I really don't, because you have to factor in the ADU.
Does this house have closets? What's the closet?
Yeah, there's closets in there.
There's some closets.
If you go into the primary bedroom, there is a little closet.
There's a little closet.
But these are the things that you have to overlook, right?
Yeah.
There is an easement on the property. So this is another thing that I factored into the price. So if you look,
is that for a builder?
No.
Well, if a builder were to buy it, they would look at the easement.
Correct. And if you were looking to expand on this property, you couldn't go to the right side of the house because there is a stormwater easement that goes through that property.
Do you make people aware of that?
Yes.
How do you disclose that?
I have plats printed out in the listing. I have floor plans, plats. I've got everything sitting there. The plat clearly shows that there's an easement, and I printed out, there's a stormwater easement. You can't build to the right. There's a stormwater retention area behind the house that no one's going to build behind you either. So there are certain things that maybe some buyers would be like, oh, I don't want that easement, right? Okay, well.
Do you think someone would buy this and want to try to push it out in a certain direction? Or is it more so just, I don't want the easement, I don't want the issue?
Yeah, I don't think the easement's going to be that problematic. I had to factor it into the price. But I don't think this particular property is one that somebody's going to push out. I think you're living in this property as is. You don't have to do a thing. And it's a cute little home.
Do appraisers factor in easements? If you factored it into your price, do they factor it into their price?
I think they have to. But I don't know. That's a really good question. It's something to ask Pierce.
So are you not giving a price because it's still on the market and an agent may be watching this?
That's true.
And then like an over. Okay, well then I'll do an over under. Okay. You're not going to do an over under?
I think it'll go into.
You're going to do an over under.
No, I want you to do it.
You want me to do it? Because Shawn, the thing is, this is. I don't want to say it's a glorified condo. It's an amazing townhouse essentially that looks like a house. So how high can you go? Right? Because at that point it's all right, just buy a townhouse. But it's in Westover, and you can walk to the Italian store.
Oh my gosh,
you can walk to Westover Beer Garden. I saw you were just at Westover Taco.
Westover Taco.
You know, and now I feel like I'm on the spot here. I'm gonna say like a low price.
Buy it.
So my line, I'm setting the line, the betting line at 933.5.
That's a good one.
That's the line.
Okay.
You know, I could have egg on my face. Someone bids list price. That's the only offer you get. Someone could go higher. Someone could shoot the moon, because if you want a single family house in Arlington, you know, you don't get the third bedroom. People want that third bedroom.
That's the
But also, if you want a townhouse in Arlington with no HOA fees, well, hold on. Now we got one under $900,000. I'm sure the schools are amazing, like they are in, you know, pretty much all of Arlington neighborhoods. You've already set a deadline.
Yep.
This is probably the most biased in or out that we've ever done.
I know.
Because I'm so in on this house.
I'm in
so
on it too. And I was thinking to myself, like, man, should I just buy this and use it as a rental? You could, you know, like, it's such a good property. It's very rare. I was talking to a friend agent of mine the other day, and she was like, oh, you got a unicorn. You got a unicorn. I mean, that's really what it is. And she, you know, she's like, oh, you're going to get like mid-nines, you know? So, I just don't know what to expect. And that's the thing, is I never want to say I'm going to get this, because it all depends. You know, the buyer pool is smaller because it is a smaller property, but man, is it cute. And
I'm going to text it to Elaine after this.
Yeah.
See what she says.
I could get you a good deal on
She always sees things that, like, we're staring at the same photo, and she sees like 10 things that I don't see.
There's a 3D tour on it as well.
I did. Who did the 3D tour? Home Visit?
Home Visit.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Was it not good? Well, they go outside and they go into the thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it was
All right, Matt
giving me a headache doing it. But let us know your thoughts. Is this going to go above or below 933.5?
What's the number? Where are we going to get?
What's the line? And if you're in or out, you know, at this stage in my life, I could certainly live in a 2-bedroom house, although I know that is a deal breaker for many people, but not for me.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for watching. For Shawn and myself, until next time, we'll see you then.
Take care.